Hi, Michal. So we are meeting in a second episode. I'm Jan, and this is Michal. We both work for Percona, and we are going to have a small chat about backups. So, in the last conversation, we have discussed the overlay of backup tools available, and one of the main factors discussed was the size of the data that impacts the backup tools and actually backup strategy. So Michal, can you tell me something about backup strategy? Like how do you come up with a backup strategy and what are the factors to have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we talk about MongoDB backups today, Jan, right?
Yes,
So
of
I
course.
think we should clarify that. And you know, whenever I think or hear about the backup strategy, like first thing that really comes to my mind is RPO and RTO, right? So recovery point objective and recovery time objective, and this is where everything starts.
What are these? Because this is the thing about IT. We do love our abbreviations, and all of those matter. And I would want to understand what are these, like, so our listeners know why should they care.
Yeah, we have a lot of abbreviations at Percona, right? So even
Yes,
more
we
than
do.
people are aware. So we always make a lot of fun out of it. But yeah, recovery point objective is RPO basically, and RTO is recovery time objective. So recovery point objective is basically means what is the point in time that you must be able to restore your data given that a failure happened at some point, or maybe disaster happened at some point, right? So let's say that your recovery point objective is 5 minutes. That basically means that if failure happens 2 p.m., you must be able to restore your data to 1:55 p.m. of the same day. That is basically recovery point objective, right? And it's interesting always to see or ask someone, hey, what is your recovery point objective? And quite often the answer is, yeah, 0 or close to 0, or we cannot lose any data. But I think it's important to highlight that getting close to 0, the closer to 0 you want to get, the more you need to invest, basically. So I see you're drawing something.
Yes, I'm drawing because I'm drawing how I understood it. For me, it's always easier to have a drawing. So as I understand here is going to be the data lost between the failure point and the RPO, right?
Yeah, that's right.
This is the data lost. I'm not a great typer here in those. Let's see.
You're doing very well.
Lost. And this is going to be then, rather than the data loss, here is going to be the operations loss, right? Because here your system doesn't have the operating database, right? Because this is the
Yeah.
yeah.
So in other words, yeah, your system is not operational. So I would say that there is really no data because you're unable to store anything. So yeah, this is an availability of your system, right? So in other words, if you think about recovery time objective that is in the future, looking from the perspective of a failure moment, is basically how long does it going to take you to restore the data to recovery point that you have there. So in other words, how fast you can restore your backup. You have backup and you hope that this backup is working and this backup has data that is from not longer period of time than back to your recovery point objective. Now, how long it takes to restore it.
Okay. And I speak with a lot of users and customers, and very often, especially with our users, smaller companies, I find that they do not define these, right? So there is no backup strategy in place. And when I used to work as a DBA, I felt the backup strategy uh, on paper, well, in a document, was something that made me more secure at my job. If something failed, this is something that my manager agreed to. Do we see requirements based on existing backup strategies from all of our customers? Is this something that we can comment on?
Yeah, I mean, it's this is interesting observation. So, from my experience, it's quite often the answer is, yeah, we haven't thought about it, right? And I think in reality, of course, it really depends on how mature is the organization, right? Because if you're talking about a smaller organization, it's quite often more of a matter of best effort, right? And also the reason is because well, maybe significant failure never happened so far, right? So you haven't gone through a cycle of thinking, okay, what to do better next time to avoid this type of situation, or simply the system that the database works with is not critical enough to justify spending a lot of both time and resources, which is basically money, to make all those things happen. So quite often the answer from my perspective is, yeah, we want it to be as good as possible. Like we don't know.
Yeah, but this is the case. So this is exactly what I've heard. Okay, we are a smaller company. We cannot afford doing this or that. But at the same time, well, you're an employee. You're responsible for the data. If the system is going to crash, you're going to be responsible. So for your own job security, it feels that it would be better if higher up the chain, everybody was aware of the agreed upon strategy. Okay, so
Yeah,
if
I think
happen, this is what you have to expect, and this is what it
yeah.
means for the business.
You're right. I think a good starting point for the ones who don't have this defined is basically to think about, okay, what is the current scenario? Like, what happens if I lose like entire data center or cloud region, right? Very rare, but it may happen. Or maybe if my data is corrupted, something like that, right? And then the answer may be, oh, so I do backups just once a week. Worst case, it will be almost a week of a data loss. And maybe I have a lot of data, and the restore is, well, you should probably test how fast you can restore of your backup. Not mentioning that you should be testing if you can restore, and then how fast you can restore should also be part of this procedure. And then basically communicate that somewhere up the chain, as you mentioned, and say, hey, here is the situation right now. Are we comfortable with that? Or shall we really look at how to improve it? Because believe me, I think in many cases, once you put this type of statement, in many cases, the answer will be, that's not acceptable, right? We cannot afford it, because probably between the times where some product, a piece of software started to be used, and it was not that business critical, to the moment where it matured and maybe serves you way more revenue, which also typically means criticality. Exactly. Nothing changed on the infrastructure side. And this is a trap. Like, things worked well. Yes, they did. But typically failure is not something that happens, every week or month, so you can learn a lot. Hopefully it never happens. But you should be prepared for that. And we are basically...
is my point exactly. So yeah. By having it, even accepting it, well, yeah, we understand it will take us a week to get back on our feet again, and reviewing it in a cadence, let's say yearly, and say, okay, did nothing happen on the business side? Are you still comfortable with the fact that systems based on database XYZ are going to be will not have data for that long time, and having the business side accept it in the business terms, not really technical discussion. This is the business availability. So this transparency and awareness gives a lot of comfort if problems happen, and problems, as we know, will at some point happen. Some problems. So this is a good, I think, kind of summary point, as we did cover an important piece of planning your backups, being backup strategy, and what are RPO or an RTO. We could go maybe in the next episode on the strategies, how to actually come up with a proposal what they should be, because very often this is something that you are going to be asked. So bear with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.